we're used to feeling absolutely helpless and powerless, but there are some things that you really need to know. You need to know that the territorial assets of Scotland, every square inch, about down to as far as you can go in the earth, to hundreds of feet up, and 120 miles, I think. Neale, is it out into the sea?
200.
Is it 200? Thank you. Is part of the territorial domain, that which Scotland owns. Now you need to know, and we need to know, exactly who owns it. You need to also know that, the UK crown. There's a UK crown. Charlie's King of the UK. Actually, that's a lie. There's no such thing. There's an English crown and there's a Scottish crown. And it's the English crown that he takes his oath under, and Scotland's is just kind of added into that old English coronation oath. But Scotland's crown still remains. It is there in law. It's never gone anywhere. So you need to know the difference here. In England, the crown owns, well, I'll read you this. Conventional feudal theory and practice was based in England and elsewhere on the premise that a kingdom was first and foremost a feudal entity, and in that sense the property of its king or queen. In Scotland's feudal system, this situation was radically tempered by the crown's status as representative of the community of the realm, which vested that ownership in the sovereignty of the people. You own, I own, we own every last square inch of Scotland, which is vested in the sovereignty of the community of the realm. That's us. I'll go on. Crown property rights in Scots law, which are an important part of Scotland's system of land ownership, are also distinct from crown property rights in the rest of the UK and belong to Scotland as a sovereign territorial nation. Scotland's rights of sovereignty over its territory are vested in the Crown, with its distinct constitutional and legal identity in Scotland under Scots law, compared to the Crown in the rest of the United Kingdom under English law. This distinct identity was not affected by the Union of the Crowns in 1603 and has continued since the Treaty of Union in 1707, when Scotland ceased to be an independent state but continued to be a sovereign territorial nation. So how come our territorial assets are being disposed of without so much as a consultation with the people who own them? What is happening is that Scotland's territorial assets are being administered in a form of trust, worse, under the right of the English Crown. There is nothing in the constitutional settlement that underpins the Treaty of Union that allows that. The Queen, who negotiated and prosecuted that treaty, Anne, took an oath. It's called the Scottish Oath of Accession, in which she swore to protect and keep inviolate the rights, the Scottish Crown and its rights, rents and privileges. She wasn't taking an oath to herself, she was taking an oath to the community of the realm, the Crown of Scotland. So she had no authority to transfer Scotland's Crown territorial rights into a new United Kingdom. The parliaments neither of Scotland nor of England had that right either, and that is why the Crown of Scotland continues, though nobody ever tells you that. What's happening, our assets are being administered under a trust, under the English Crown, in right of the English Crown by the Anglo-British state, as though we were a Crown dependency. It isn't lawful. The problem is we have an establishment, and I call it the fortress of the official narrative. If enough people say it, if enough judges, if enough lords, if enough MPs, if enough historians and commentators say it, then it must be true. Because how could all those people be wrong? There's a hoax at the heart of this. And so part of what we will have to do to stop this comes back to the sovereignty of the people of Scotland. This is fraud. It isn't legal because the Supreme Court says so. Courts don't make law. Courts interpret law. And, as Neale Hanvey can tell you, the Supreme Court can get it wrong and get it badly wrong in its interpretation. We know that. The law remains the law. And the reason that we are up against a mountain here is for no other reason than that we have been sold what they call a crock. We've been told there's a crown of the United Kingdom. When you look at the first Petroleum Extraction Act, you will see that the right to the minerals, the oil, the gas, the coal, are vested in His Majesty. But that's only under the English crown, because the monarch isn't the crown in Scotland. And that crown was never transferred. So we're going to have to challenge the legitimacy of what is essentially an act of criminal fraud by a state against a sovereign territorial nation. And this is going to come as a big shock to most people. It's going to be, well, how can they possibly be wrong? How could you be right about this? We're right about it because that's the law. That's what it says. And it doesn't become right, just, or legal because the plundering, colonizing state says whatever I decide is right and legal is going to be right and legal. So we're going to have to get ready to fight this all the way to the international courts. We're going to have to start looking at issuing notices to everybody involved in these Freeport initiatives and these contracts that they're about to enter into unlawful contracts, and we are going to be challenging them. They will have that notice if they go ahead and the day comes when they go to their international corporate courts and say we entered these contracts in good faith and we're entitled to keep them, and we will say no, you didn't. We told you to begin with. These are the rights of the sovereign territorial nation of Scotland. So I want everyone here to practice saying loudly and as often as you possibly can, the sovereign territorial nation of Scotland.